And turning to the last item, page 176, objection has been raised to item 4-14, number 2H.
Delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, speaking to the objection.
Delegate has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, the other day we had a bill to conform the Virginia tax code to the federal tax code. And we were told that that was our last chance to get conformity so that people could file their tax returns on time. And it had to have an emergency clause so that we could get that done. And when we couldn't get enough votes, you took the emergency clause off of it. And I tried again to take off the language that actually confused tax policy with tax conformity so that we could then put back on the emergency clause and actually have conformity. And that vote was defeated. Somehow the defeat of my amendment, which actually would have had us do clean conformity, was spun in a press release as the Democrats killing conformity, clean conformity. But for whatever you may think of what happened then, as I was studying up and preparing these objections, you all heard the long list of objections that I entered, I ran across this last one on page 176, and I looked at the explanation, which says this amendment eliminates the tax conformity language included in House Bill 1700 is introduced. So I went and looked at the language. All this is just language that's struck. So I went back and looked at the section of the budget that was being struck through. And the very first line is on the effective date. And it turns out that the effective date of this bill, because it's a general appropriation, the effective date of this bill will be upon its passage. This bill would be effective. Everything we put in it is effective the day that it's passed, pursuant to Section 1-214 of the Code. I looked at the Constitution. Sure enough, all bills go into effect on July 1st, except for emergency clauses, except for bills that are a general appropriation. So we've got a general appropriation bill that will become effective upon its passage, and we struck through the language that was almost identical to what I saw in the bill, that we took the emergency clause out of, that would cause us to conform the tax code so that people can start doing their taxes. So I've started to get a lot of mail, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls. I'm sure you all have in your offices as well, with a lot of taxpayers that don't really get bogged down in the nitty-gritty and the details of what we do, but they know this. They know they can't get their tax refunds from the state of Virginia. They know they can't complete their taxes. They know we haven't done our job yet in passing conformity. So this doesn't take any great, parliamentary gymnastics. What you can do now, today, is vote no to this budget amendment, leave the conformity language in the budget. We've got conformity in the budget. We can pass a budget, and when it passes, people will be able to start doing their taxes. Mr. Speaker, I hope that's the pleasure of the House to vote no to this committee amendment.
Delegate from Suffolk, Delegate Jones.
Speaker, speaking to the amendment.
Delegate has the floor.
Speaker, I say to the gentleman, we typically don't legislate through the budget. We don't do tax policy in the budget. There were several members who were asked to carry and did not, so I chose to carry the conformity bill. So when I was speaking on the floor, that was a bill that dealt with having an emergency clause. We don't put emergency clauses on budgets that I'm aware of. They become effective upon the governor's signature. So I would ask that we would adopt the amendment.
Shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Clerk will close the roll.
Excuse me. Ayes 52, noes 47.
Ayes 52, noes 47. The committee amendment is agreed to.